Prime Minister, as a former prosecutor, you brought first prosecutions for child rapists 15 years ago. I just want to put that on record, your record. But your decision now to hold an inquiry into grooming gangs after refusing 6 months ago to do so has sparked anger. Kemi Badenoch says you owe victims an apology. That irritates you, doesn't it? You don't think you do owe anyone an apology, do you?
Well, my frustration is on those that don't focus on the victims. I won't go over the last 15 years, but I brought the first prosecution 15 years ago in relation to these grooming cases. I then changed all the guidelines in criminal justice.
So does this irritate you?
I then called for mandatory
Does it irritate
reporting.
you that people are accusing you of not dealing with the situation?
I try to remain courteous at all times, but when politicians who were themselves in power, such as Kemi Badenoch, and did absolutely nothing. When people like me were calling for mandatory reporting, but that fell on deaf ears. So I stand on my record in relation to the national inquiry.
Does she owe people an apology? Do the Conservatives owe people an apology?
My focus is on the victims on this, not on politicians. I simply gently point out that some of those that are loudest now were the people who did absolutely nothing when they had the opportunity. But I do on the national inquiry, because it is important. That needs to go wherever the evidence takes it.
And I'm going to come on to that. I want to come on to that. But before I do, I just need to do this with you. You accuse politicians like Badenoch of jumping on a bandwagon for the far right. Was that misjudged to put it in those terms? Do you wish you hadn't said that now? I
was really clear that I was talking about politicians.
I know, I just said that.
Yeah, and I do think that those politicians need to answer the question, which is why, when you were in power and had the opportunity to do something,
but do you wish you hadn't conflated it with right-wing bandwagon, because that's not what people's concerns about grooming gangs weren't necessarily right wing. Do you sort of wish you hadn't said it?
I don't. I've never implied that other people with genuine concerns, and certainly not victims. I've been working with victims. I've seen firsthand the impact it has on victims. But I was calling out those politicians. I mean, I am frustrated in politics when people shout and scream a lot and do nothing when they got the opportunity to do it. It's one of the worst aspects of politics, in my view.
Okay. Those calling for an inquiry had a point, though, didn't they? Because Casey's findings are stark. Disproportionate numbers of Asian men responsible for child sex grooming gangs, but her words, do-gooders, were trying to cover stuff up for fear of being branded racist. Do you recognise that? And who are the do-gooders?
Well, I absolutely recognise what Louise Casey wrote in her report. I've read every word of it. It's why I've decided there needs to be a national inquiry. But also, because of those words, I'm clear that inquiry must go wherever the evidence is.
Who are the do-gooders?
Well, I mean, that's Louise Casey's words. She will answer that for you. I can tell you in terms, because I had 7,000 staff when I was chief prosecutor, I was very clear that ethnicity should not play a part in any of the decisions that we took. I can't answer for other people, but I do recognise that if we're going to have a national inquiry...
didn't behave like you did?
Well, look, that's the concern, and we need to be open about that.
And that was your experience when you were prosecuting people?
Well, my experience was slightly different, because the case there was assumptions were being made about the reliability of some of these witnesses, which were completely wrong, which is why I changed the system. But I don't want to duck this one, because I think it is very important, Beth, that this inquiry, now having been put in place, must go where the evidence... and if that means into questions of ethnicity or the views that were taken by public officials or others, then that inquiry must go there. No stone will be left unturned.
No stone unturned. And this is where you have led me, because I really want to ask you this. Perpetrators have been prosecuted by you, but no one in institutions have lost their jobs. Councillors, social workers, policemen, civil servants, people that were meant to protect these vulnerable young women, these girls, they have not been prosecuted. It cannot sit easily with you. Do you want prosecutions to flow from it? Would that help with public trust?
Well, I think that the inquiry needs to go where the evidence takes it. But then, in answer to your question, there must be accountability.
Right.
Because that is the reason that we need to leave no stone unturned. So I'm not going to say here X, Y, Z.
What's your instinct?
My instinct is there must be accountability.
So you're happy for social workers? You think these people should be held accountable? Social workers, policemen, people that failed?
Where the inquiry uncovers failure or wrongdoing, then there absolutely should be accountability. and that is amongst the purposes of an inquiry. And it's a statutory inquiry, as you know, which will therefore mean there's power to compel evidence and witnesses, because it's important that it is comprehensive, it's important that it gets to every single issue, and as part of that process there's accountability for individuals who did wrong.